This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
One victory is fun. 2 victories in a season is okay. But you know what's more fun than 1 victory or 2 victories? Maybe 3 victories, 4 victories, 5 victories, 6 victories, 7 victories. So while we are on a Victory Monday and we're going to enjoy what the Browns did, I do think that there are some things that happened in that game that it'd be smart for the Browns to notice and evaluate and see if they can make better this week, whether it be because you're getting people back from injury or because you can do things a little bit differently, right? The one thing I will say is you're not going to beat the New England Patriots more than likely the way you beat the Miami Dolphins, not in score or not in style, right? The way you beat the Miami Dolphins had a lot to do with the Miami Dolphins not being good, on top of the Browns executing on the opportunities that the Miami Dolphins provided. The Miami Dolphins gave you about 103 yards in penalty yards. It was a massive boost for your offense that was technically outgained by Miami. You had, because of all of Miami's turnovers, 8 times where you had the ball in Miami territory. You only scored on 4 of those. But you got 8 chances. You got 8 swings, reasonable swings to get points up. So you're not going to get those kind of opportunities versus New England. You're not going to get that many opportunities versus New England. So if you want to beat New England next week, which I do think it's possible, even though New England's been playing some really solid football as of late, you're going to have to get better in some areas. That doesn't mean that we don't enjoy what the Browns did on Sunday or try to downplay it. But also it means that there's some stuff that even in a victory that you can definitely improve. The number one thing and number 2 thing here for me are going to be efficiency in passing offense and efficiency in rushing offense. Now, the rushing offense needs a lot more work in efficiency this week than the passing offense. But the good news on that is I feel much more confident about the rushing offense being able to make a pretty sizable leap in 1 week in efficiency because the personnel there is probably going to be much better next week, right? Hopefully you get David and Njoku back, which is really going to help both sides of this equation, right? Your passing efficiency and your rushing efficiency. You also could possibly get Jack Conklin back, which would be a huge boost to you. I think that right side of that offensive line blocked really well at times. The big rushing touchdown was from that right side of that offensive line. Wyatt Teller doing some good work. KT Levinson doing some good work there. So something to consider is getting Jack Conklin back there to help you. And that will help you out. Other things that I need to look at the film on, and this is going to be a big focus this week when I do my film study, is why else, other reasons, right? Other than personnel, why else were the Browns not very efficient when it comes to their run game, right? Why did we only average 3.4 yards per carry, which if you average it out and look at it based on the rest of the NFL, would rank about 30th in the league? Why were we that poor, right? We should be with the talent that the Browns have, with Quincy Judkins, you should be at about 4.2 yards per carry. You should be above 4.2 yards per carry. So 3.4 is really bad. So yes, you got the 3 rushing touchdowns. Ultimately, the Miami Dolphins gave you enough opportunities to score to where it didn't really matter how efficient your offense was in general. But better teams are going to take advantage of that, right? If you're not a very efficient offense, other teams are going to take advantage of it. So that's got to be improved. I think personnel will go a long way there. Also, this week you're probably going to want to look at a lot of film study to really understand what the crux of the problem is when they're trying to block for this. So if you're going to watch my film breakdown of the run game this week, that's going to be the main focus of it. We're going to get into why the offensive passing game needs to be more efficient in just a second. But I want to thank my sponsor, Sleeper. Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required. And also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code Worst Take. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper. All right, so the Browns average about 6.4 passing yards per play, which is not a terrible number, right? It's an improvement from where they were last week. I think they were at like 5, which is a truly awful number. If you've ever wondered what the range is for acceptable passing yards per play, right? If you're a bad offense, you're going to be anywhere from like 4 to 6.7. If you're an okay offense, you're going to be at like 6.8 to 7. If you're a good offense, you'll be at 7 to 7.5. And great offenses are usually above 7.5 on this number. The Browns offense in like 2023, if you combine all of it, right? Not just the Joe Flacco stuff, but all of it, I believe they were about 6.4 yards per pass play. So that's where the Browns were on Sunday, which is a improvement, but I want to see that number creep up to about 6.8, right? I think that is a pretty good number for them to be at. Right now, that would probably be about 24th best number in the NFL. If you get to 6.8, you're going to be more 15th in the NFL. Again, the reason this offense needs to be more efficient is you're just not always going to get the amount of opportunities to score that were presented to you in this game. You're not going to get as many short fields. So when you do get those, you have to be a very much more efficient offense to kind of take advantage and score there. So, yeah, the passing efficiency, I think, is the biggest thing for Dillon Gabriel right now. I think he's done a solid job as a rookie in 3 or 4 starts. And keep in mind, like, what we've asked Dillon to do has been very difficult these last 3 weeks. And I don't think enough people have appreciated this. And I get it. Everybody's excited. They want to see Shedeur Sanders. That's the big name. That's the name that everybody knows. But it's not Shedeur's turn right now. If it was Shedeur's turn right now, everything would be focused on making sure that everything's fair to Shedeur and that people are, being fair in their criticisms of Shedeur. And I think that's important. But right now, it's just not his turn. It's Dillon's turn, right? And I see so many people willing to just kind of exaggerate things with Dillon Gabriel to try to make a point so they can try to get to Shedeur faster. And I just find that to be dishonest, right? The job that Dillon's been asked to do these last 3 weeks has been incredibly difficult. You're asking a rookie quarterback in his first start on the road not on the road technically, but in London on International Game Week. You're asking him to make his first start against a Brian Flores defense. And then the next week, you're asking him to start the dreaded in Pittsburgh game as a Cleveland Browns quarterback. That game has chewed out and spit out plenty of quarterbacks. Both those games had the potential to be super high in turnovers, and Dillon threw a lot of turnover-worthy plays in that game. Luckily, he left out with no turnovers. Then this week, you're going up against the Miami Dolphins, which isn't that tough of a challenge, but then the rain in the first half of this game was an extreme challenge, right? Extreme winds, extreme weather in this game, right? And it's like people don't give a fuck about any of that when talking about Dillon Gabriel, but I know for a fact if we were talking about the quarterback that everybody's excited about, Shedeur Sanders, people would all of a sudden care about those factors. I think it's important to be fair to both parties here and give them the same fair evaluation. And just because people are being unfair to Dillon right now to try to get Shedeur on doesn't mean that when Shedeur plays, I'm going to be unfair to him. I'm going to be just as fair to Shedeur as I've been to Joe Flacco, as I've been to Deshaun Watson, like all the quarterbacks that have been here. I've been extremely fair to all of them, to the point to where people get mad at me who want to bench him whenever it's time to bench him because I want to look at the film before I yell, oh, you got to bench the guy, right? Because I want actual evidence before I want to bench somebody, right? It happens with every single quarterback. And look, when Shador's up there, I'm pretty sure there are going to be some people mad at me if Shador goes out there, doesn't play well, and I'm going to be like, no, I want to look at the tape. So yeah, I understand people's excitement and energy to want to get Shador in there, but you got to understand, it's just not his turn right now. And trying to be unfair to Dylan Gabriel to try to force his turn, to force Shador's turn, is going to do nothing but make people be extra. It's going to increase the scrutiny on Shador whenever he plays, because when people are not caring about the weather when it's Dylan, when people are not caring about the challenge that Dylan is having and just quoting you numbers, being like, it's bad, we need to put Shador in. If Shador plays and the same context is affecting his play, well, nobody's going to want to hear that, right? Because you said you didn't want to hear it about any of the other quarterbacks. So, it's just a word of advice. Like, I don't think this is helpful to Shador for people to act this way. And I think it's just going to result in people being just as unfair to Shador as people are being to Dylan. And I think that's a travesty, because I want to have a fair evaluation of all these quarterbacks who play this year. And I'll do my best to make sure I'm being fair to everybody. But I just know how everybody else is going to operate in the media space. And it's going to go like that. Like, I've been through this enough to know that it's already set. If Shador does not play well, people are going to act that way. But that doesn't change the fact that Dylan, while what he's been asked to do has been difficult, he needs to still execute at a little bit more of an efficient clip, right? I think this week was an improvement, 75% completion percentage. He did what he needed to. There were a couple of throws that were a little bit dicey. I don't love how people are saying because it was a tight window throw, it was almost an interception. That again feels like pretty bad faith. Like, it's either a tight window completion or it's not, right? That's what a tight window completion is. If he incompleted the ball and it got intercepted, well, that's an interception. So, I don't love people acting like that was an interception. It was a tight window throw. He made the throw. It was a tight throw. He made it, I think he made a couple of really nice plays. I think one of the throws he made on the run was really nice that helped the Browns score. It was y'all remember Eric Snow? If you're a Cavs fan, it was a very Eric Snow performance. Eric Snow was never going to lead your team in points, but Eric Snow will run the offense. Eric Snow will make sure there's no turnovers or low turnovers. Eric Snow will get the ball to LeBron James. Eric Snow would play decent defense. Like, Eric Snow wasn't anybody's favorite player, but he was solid and served his purpose for the little bit of time that he needed to serve his purpose until the Cavs eventually got somebody better in Mo Williams. That's kind of what Dylan is, right? Like, he serves his purpose. He serves his role. I think he allows the offense to function a little bit better. And right now, that's where the Browns are. We'll see if Dylan can become more than that the more he gets to play. He has been kind of dealt 3 rough hands here to start his career. I would love to see what he could do in normal conditions in a normal game, not playing like one of the best defenses in the NFL, or at least at the time one of the best defenses in the NFL. But we'll see what he can do. I just need the efficiency numbers to be a little bit better from this offense. And that's the big thing I'm sticking on with Kevin Stefanski too, right? A lot of people want to know if this game changes how I feel about Kevin and changes if he's on the hot seat or not. For me, the big problem with the offense has been, in 2020, we were super efficient. We were like a 7+ efficient offense. In 2021, we were super efficient, especially before Baker had the labrum injury. We were one of the most efficient offenses in the NFL before Baker had the labrum injury, right? We haven't really gotten back to that point, except for maybe the 6 weeks that Joe Flacco was here, where we're back to that high level efficiency in offense. That's the thing I want Kevin to demonstrate that he can get back to in today's NFL, right? Can he get back to having a very, very efficient offense? That was the hallmark. That was the thing that I thought brought a lot of people to the table with Kevin. That's the thing that brought a lot of people to the table with him around the league, and why people start to respect him a lot was the efficiency that he was able to command on offense, despite the fact that he didn't have the best players. If he can get back to that and get this offense to be much more efficient, then all of a sudden you're like, okay, he figures something out. But if the offense is still bottom level efficient, not even getting to like 6.8, then you still have to ask, hey, is Kevin the guy to really fix the offense? I didn't really see enough efficiency in this game to just be like blown away. Oh my God, we got to keep Kevin. So I would say I'm still pretty skeptical of his opportunity to return next year. But, that's the thing I'm going to be watching, right, is the efficiency on offense. I think that's super important going forward. The passing efficiency and really the run game efficiency, which is really gone off a cliff since 2021. Got to find a way to get that back up, right? Because it just doesn't feel like we're very efficient in the run game. So offensive efficiency, if you've ever wondered, what is my beef with Kevin's offense right now? It's the lack of efficiency in the offense. It's how much we have to throw to get 200 yards, right? It's how much we have to run to get to 100 yards. Browns ran the ball like 35 times in this game. How many times did they run the ball? Let me go ahead and look. We ran the ball 33 times. We only got 104 yards. That's not good, right? You shouldn't have to run the ball that many times to get to 100 yards. You should want to run the ball. You should be able to run the ball like 20 times, right? 20 times, 22 times to be able to get to 100. So not really a great number there. So the efficiency here, that's one thing I think can improve. There is a player I think the Browns can look for that I want to mention that I also think can help them. And that guy's Marvin Mims. Now, Marvin Mims, if you know, he was one of my draft crushes in 2023. He's a smaller wide receiver, but what really impressed me with his tape at Oklahoma was his 50-50 ball skills. He really plays like a much bigger wide receiver than he is. I think he's more of a Zay Flowers type than how they use him in Denver. I think he gets typecast a lot in Denver because he's a smaller guy. They want to use him for smaller guy stuff. I think the Browns are like the perfect situation for him. They need a real 50-50 downfield threat, and they need more 50-50 downfield threats. Right now, with Cedric Tillman out, you got nothing in the receiving game with that. I think Marvin Mims is a better 50-50 guy than Cedric Tillman is. He's a point of attack catcher. He's somebody who you can go back shoulder with. I think that's a throw that you need to have Dylan be able to access in this offense, and Shador for that point, if Shador plays. I think both these quarterbacks can throw back shoulder balls and have done so a lot in their college tape. So getting somebody who can access that throw, I think, would be very helpful. He's also, a threat as a playmaker. So if you want to give him some end arounds, he can do that. I think also he can be a kick returner. He can be a kick returner. He is a kick returner and a punt returner, and he's an effective one there, a playmaker at that position. He's also somebody who can shift your wide receivers into the right position. I think the big issue with the Browns receiving room is that you have so many pieces in that receiving room that I feel like are a little bit out of position. Right? You got Jerry Jeudy trying to be an X receiver when Jerry Judy's really somebody who does most of his damage in the slot. But because he has to kind of fulfill all these roles now because he's the only receiver that people pay attention to, he has to kind of take all these outside boundary throws. And then that takes those away from Cedric Tillman when he's in there. You got Isaiah Bond trying to run all these routes over the middle of the field, not really going downfield, right? You just got all these pieces out of place because you have to shift so many things because you're not confident in the rest of your wide receiving room. I think getting a piece like Marvin Mims, so you can say, hey, we can put him at the 2, or not the 2, but at your Z and at your X. You can have him run downfield. You can have him take an end around every once in a while. You can keep Jerry Jeudy at the Z. Not the Z, but at the Y, right? Put him in the slot. Let him do what he does best. And then also move other pieces around. And you can take a tight end off the field every once in a while. Wouldn't kill us to take a tight end off the field every once in a while here. So I think Marvin Mims is a guy that they need to kind of like kick the tires on and see what the price is. I don't think Denver, despite the fact that he had a big game with Denver, I don't think Denver's super motivated to keep him. They don't seem to love him that much. You got all those extra 5th-round picks. I wouldn't mind spending one on a Marvin Mims, if I'm being honest with you. Young guy in a rookie deal. I think getting somebody like that can really realign your wide receivers and put them in more of a place to thrive. Even somebody like Jamari Thrash, who I think has more potential than he's been allowed to show right now, he's kind of still like slightly out of position right now in this wide receiver room. So I think getting a Marvin Mims will be helpful. But those are my things that I think would help the Browns win some games over the next few weeks. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.